All right, welcome to the Pig and a Pickle Krueger Show. We're off and running on a Friday morning. Big day. You can catch me at 2 o'clock on 95.7 The Game. We're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle. Check them out in Corte Madera and in Emeryville, the best barbecue in Northern California. And we're joined this segment by Matt Barrows, who covers the 49ers for The Athletic. Matty, good to see you.
Good to see you, Larry.
Well, let's just jump right into it. In the last 24 hours, there's been a rumor circulating that Adam Peters potentially could be joining the Houston Texans in a weird kind of situation. It sounds like Bill Belichick may be losing face with Robert Kraft, and that maybe the Texans GM Nick Caserio could be going back to New England, maybe after the draft. And there's been speculation that Peters may be his replacement to take over as the GM. Of course, this team has already hired D'Amico Ryans as their head coach, and other 49er people are there as well. What do you think of it? How likely is it that Peters, you think, winds up in Houston? And if so, when do you think it will happen?
Well, this is Mike Silver's rumor. He's the one that started it. He basically got asked. I mean, I was a little surprised early this off season when the Titans were looking for a new GM, and they asked to interview Rand Carthon and Adam Peters, and Peters declined the interview. And so I took that to mean that, okay, this guy, he's from Cupertino. He's been John Lynch's right-hand man. There's always been all sorts of rumors about Lynch going back to television at some point. I felt like it was confirmation that that Peters is the heir apparent at GM here in San Francisco, and that's why he's declining GM interviews. So I suppose something could have been in the works at that point where he knew that he could be offered the Houston GM job, and that's an attractive job, just given who they hired as head coach, somebody who he's very familiar with, and B, they've got scads of draft picks. So, you put two and two together, and there is some credence there or some believability there. But again, I would think that I think that I know that Adam Peters is held in very high standing by the 49ers, by Jed York, et cetera, et cetera. So I still think this is where he ultimately wants to be, but obviously in the GM role.
And it begs a lot of questions. I mean, first of all, Peters is a native of Cupertino. He went to Monte Vista High School. He was a two-sport standout there. He's got a wife and a couple kids, so, maybe he wants to be in Northern California, or maybe not. And maybe this, kind of leads into another conversation. How long do you expect John Lynch to stay in this role? I mean, I think a lot of people thought he would jump back to kind of the easier schedule of television, but I get a sense that he is really given a charge by the job that he's in, and doesn't plan to leave anytime soon. That's just from afar. I haven't talked to him about it, but that's my takeaway. What do you think? Is Lynch a long time guy here, or do you think he may jump back or jump out of this situation? This is a heavy workload position that he's in.
It is. He's I want to finish the job type of guy. That's how he was raised, and so he wants to win a Super Bowl with his team. And I think if that happened, then maybe he would have kind of scratched that itch and would look for something else. I mean, when Amazon was looking for broadcasters a couple of years ago, they threw a lot of money in front of his face. And it was enough where he had to sort of kind of look at it. And he ultimately chose not to. I'm not sure whether that Amazon job is still available, whether that dollar amount is still available. It was a huge dollar amount, and it didn't coax him away from being the GM. So I would think it would have to be a very kind of special offer for him to leave.
Are you familiar with a Yahoo writer named Charles Robinson? Because Robinson has a report out saying that the 49ers if they were offered a second round pick for Trey Lance, that they would grab it and they would be happy with that. Do you know Robinson? Do you think there's anything credible about his statement? I think on a recent podcast that yeah, if somebody comes forward with a second round pick wanting Trey Lance, that they will pull the trigger.
Yeah, I mean, second round pick. I don't know if that's enough for them to pull the trigger at this point. I don't know where he's getting that. Who in the organization would tell a media member that, yeah, oh yeah, we'd go for a second round pick for Trey Lance, no problem. That doesn't make a lot of sense. So I don't think so. I mean, the question is, would they pull the trigger for a second rounder? My whole take is that, in an off season where Purdy is not going to participate, in an unproven Sam Darnold, you need all the quarterbacks you can get. So I don't see that happening. I mean, I think like we've discussed, next off season is the time where it seems much more logical to make that move if Purdy does everything that the 49ers think he can, which is, stay healthy, A, and B, continue what he showed in 2022. So many things that are going to happen between now and then. That's going to, change the narrative, and it's going to look this way, it's going to look that way, and then it'll go back to looking like it did right now in April of 2023. To me, it's not even worth kind of, going down that alley. There's just too many things that are going to happen.
There are multiple reports that the Niners have had actually multiple meetings with DTR, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, the UCLA quarterback. I'm looking at the Draft Tech rankings. They have him listed as the 8th quarterback on the board and the 130th overall pick in the draft, which would be, right comfortably behind where the 49ers have 3 selections, 99, 101, 102. But man, I mean, if you said to me the 49ers are going to use a third-round draft choice, despite the fact they have needs and other spots that seem more pressing on DTR, I would say there's just no chance, no way, no how. What do you make of their multiple meetings, trying to meet with meeting with a quarterback that's, by all accounts, going to be gone well before they would be interested in picking a quarterback? That, to me, seems very curious.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's a question of whether he actually would be a third-round pick or whether he's a late-round pick, because I don't think that they're making a QB pick with a third round, because that would mean that at some point in the regular season, you would have Purdy, Lance, Darnold, and whoever this third rounder is on your active roster. That's just too many to keep on the 53-man roster. I mean, they're talking about keeping 3 this year, which is, more than they usually do, or more than they've had in the past. So if they did do that, though, that would sort of lend credence to some sort of maneuver with Trey Lance or somebody. I think that they'll add a quarterback, but it'll be late. A guy that you can stash on the practice squad, or maybe even it's after the draft. And I wonder whether DTR would go late. I mean, he's got detractors too. I forget where Dane Bruler, my guy with the Athletic, ranks him, but he's definitely not a third rounder in his estimation. So I'm thinking that the 49ers think that maybe this is a guy that's available in the 6th or the 7th. And in which case that's the area I think that they'd love to take a quarterback.
Have you read The Beast, by the way, from
Yes.
Dane Brugler? 309. My son sent it to me. He's like, Dad, check out The Beast. And I'm like, oh, I'll print it out. And then I'm like, wait a second. This is 309 pages. I will not be printing.
Killed the forest there by printing it
Yeah,
out.
exactly. So I got a guy from Muir Woods on line 3 who's very unhappy. But Brugler put together an unbelievable database and resource. I mean, his draft guide is comprehensive, to say the least. Were you in Santa Clara this week on Wednesday for the 49er local pro day? And if so, what was your primary takeaway? Did you have some takeaways from that thing?
Yeah, I mean, it was usually the local pro day has been garbage in recent years. It's not not any prospect kind of showing up worth his salt. Last year there were 47 guys who showed up, and there was exactly one of those players got drafted, and it was a compensatory 7th-round pick that he was drafted with. So this year the talent level was a lot higher. There were two defensive linemen. I kind of parked myself near that group during the practice. It wasn't a long practice at all, maybe only 45 minutes, but Isaiah Foskey and Junior Fehoko were there, and neither of them worked out because they both are going to be draft picks, and so it wasn't really worth the effort, the risk. But they got to watch as two other guys who probably won't get drafted worked out. And so Chris Kasarik and Daryl Tapp, who, as you know, are just two of the most intense coaches
Right.
I've ever witnessed. Yelling and they ran these poor two guys ragged. And so Fehoko and Foskey got to kind of see the atmosphere, the energy, and I got the sense that both kind of wish that they were out there, because that's the kind of players they are. I mean, I watch Fehoko, and I think this guy just has Chris Kasarik written all over him.
Right.
He's
I
gonna
mean,
be
are
a
you calling him
big.
Junior? Are you talking about the San Jose State kid,
Yeah,
Viliami?
yeah.
They call him
Viliami,
Junior?
they call him Junior Fehoko. Yeah.
Gotcha.
He's from
Gotcha.
East Palo Alto, goes a
St.
mile,
Francis.
100 miles a minute, can play, any of the techniques along the defensive line. It reminds me a lot of Kerry Hyder, actually. Not body beautiful, doesn't have any sort of classic look to him, but he just goes all out and he makes lots of plays in the backfield. I just think that Kasarik will really like him. They've got these 3 extra picks in the 5th round. That would be a beautiful spot for him.
Both those guys are among my favorite. Fehoko, where do you think Fehoko might go? I mean, to me, it seems like if they want him, they may be staring at him a couple times. I could see him there in the 3rd round, 4th round, 5th round, possibly. And man, if they get 2/5, let's just say if they want a couple edge rushers, they seem like they like Matty, guys a little bit bigger, so they could kind of, use them inside and have that flexibility and stunt them inside if they want. When I turned on the film for Fehoko, because I don't, I'm here in the Bay Area. I don't watch San Jose State. I just realized that, earlier this year. I'm like, I really haven't watched the Spartans very much. But this kid was the defensive player of the year in the conference, and he's just violent, and you can see it. And I don't care what his workout numbers say, because this guy's motor and his desire is off the charts. And then Jordan Elliott did a little sit down with him, and he talked about how much he would love to be a 49er. Where do you think Fehoko winds up going in this draft?
Yeah, I think it's 5th round, maybe. I mean, and the 49ers, right now they've got 11 picks. They're not going to end up with 11 picks. They're going to be jumping around. They might end up getting into the 4th round, and maybe that's where you use it. But you're right. I mean, Fehoko has a spark to him, too. And I'm sure it showed up in that interview. He's a team captain type of guy, just a real leader. I mean, he would just mesh so well in that defensive line room. I think Bosa and Armstead would love him. Kasarik and Tapp would love him. He grew up a 49ers fan. He played college ball just down the street. I mean, it all seems to be pointing there. I'm going to be disappointed if they don't get him, just because they have you're right. They're going to get a lot of looks at him. And they don't really have a lot of huge needs. But today they re-signed Kerry Hyder. And
Saw that.
so, on paper, that defensive line room is pretty set. They've got a lot of guys, 12 players right now. They're only going to keep 10 on the active roster and only have 8 up for game days. But, I feel like Fehoko is a future Kerry Hyder, somebody who plays on that B line primarily. But if there is an injury to, Drake Jackson, or heaven forbid to Nick Bosa, he'd be a guy that could step up and give you a Kerry Hyder like 2020 season where 10 sacks. That's a huge number, and I think he's capable of it. I mean, he's got a nonstop motor. Just like I said, just seems to be a very, very nice fit scheme wise and character wise, all that stuff.
We don't get the little revelation until usually after the draft of which 49er or which prospects earn the 49ers highest grade, right? That gold helmet designation. I think Colton McKivitz got it. But I could see Isaiah Foskey being on that list of the gold helmet guys just because in a lot of ways, Matt, he checks every box that you're looking for. I think he's really strong at setting the edge. I think his best football is coming up right now. He was the team captain. He was very productive. He's a bigger bodied guy playing defensive end. That seems to be what they favor. But looking at the mocks, I mean, he could go anywhere from the late first to the mid second round. The fact that he was there and they were talking to him, and the people that I talked to who were down there said that they were having very nice conversations, at least on the field, with Foskey. Do you think that Foskey's presence in any way means that they, if they have no shot at a guy, he's probably not making the trek down there. Is it possible that they communicated to his agent, hey, look, there's a chance we could parlay some of our picks to move up into round 2, and if we do, your guy's one of the guys we're really looking hard at. And could he come down here and at least meet with us and get a chance to get a little feel for him during the local pro day? What do you think? To me, his name, the fact that he was there was kind of eye-opening to me.
Yeah, he's the type of guy that usually wouldn't show up to this type
Right.
of event, which is why it's been, like I said, garbage in recent years. And he was there, and he was, like I said, he and Fajoko were following the D-line group around the whole time. It could be something as simple as, his family lives nearby. He didn't have any official 30 visits midweek, so he figured, why not? Doesn't hurt to go down and say hello to John Lynch and to Kyle Shanahan. And even when a team like the 49ers knows that it's not going to draft somebody, they still like to build a dossier on the guy.
Right.
Know who he is if you're going to A, face him, and B, when he comes up in free agency. I mean, that's something that they immediately go back to. What kind of grade did we have on this guy coming out of the draft? And so the more exposure you have to him, the more complete that grade is. So I think that's what it is. If you start to fall, though, he's not getting past the 49ers. I'll tell you that, because you're right. He would be a really nice fit. It's a team that just loves to kind of stock up on defensive linemen. And, there's still some question mark about who's playing opposite Bosa. They love Drake Jackson. They love his potential, but he certainly didn't, answer every question about him as a rookie. And then who's the other guy that they brought in? The Clemson guy.
Austin Bryant.
Austin Bryant would be the other guy, and he's got question marks, and Cleveland Farrell's got question marks. So, it would make sense.
Jake Haener. I don't know. I saw a couple interviews with Jake Haener, and a buddy of mine who's been down at Fresno's campus and has scouted them quite a bit says, this guy's very competitive, but he rubs some people the wrong way. And I said, really? Then I saw the interview down in Santa Clara, and I could kind of picture it. He seems a little standoffish. He didn't seem like he liked Mayoko's comparison to Brock Purdy. He really pushed back aggressively. Usually guys are more gracious in that moment. What was your takeaway from Jake Haener on the field and in the interview?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like guys who are under 6 feet, which is what Jake Haener is, should be bending over backward to thank Brock Purdy. I mean, the mere fact that, Haener's being looked at as a possible 3rd or 4th round pick. I don't know if that's the case if Brock Purdy doesn't have the season that he had last year.
Agreed.
Brock Purdy is making some of these short guys a lot of money. So the bristling, I get it. You want to be known as your own person, but that's not an awful comparison to be getting right now. He came off as ultra confident. And maybe some people took it as too much. I didn't. I mean, I get it. You need to be kind of showing um, that bravado almost at this point in the season, and that's what some teams want to see. But yeah, I can understand why some people would have been rubbed the wrong way by how he sounded on Wednesday.
Super chat, glass half full guy says, do you guys think ultimately Robbie Gould re-signs with the 49ers? What's your latest intel tell you on Robbie Gould and his future, Matty? I mean, this to me is one of the interesting stories of the offseason. You know the 49ers love Robbie. I know he used to love them. I don't know if he still loves them. It sounds like he wanted to go back to Chicago. I don't know if the market materialized. Where do you have sources and you're as dogged on the beat as anybody at chasing down the real story here. I feel like this is one of those examples, Matt, of there's a story and then there's a backstory. Can you tell us either?
Well, back in February when we met with Lynch and he sort of volunteered that they were looking at kickers, I thought that didn't pass the smell test. I was like, all right, this sounds like more negotiating with Robbie, and I couldn't see this team relying on a rookie kicker, given that they're going to be playing such consequential games. But Lynch was telling the truth. I mean, they really have looked at these rookie kickers. I mean, they've sent their special teams coach Brian Schneider out to work out Jake Moody and Chad Ryland, who played at Maryland, and Anders Carlson, who played at Auburn. They've been doing as much work on rookie kickers as they ever have, and as any other team is. So I think that they're definitely serious about it. But at the end of the day, like I said, last year, who was it? Cade York got picked in the fourth round by the Browns, and York wasn't very good. I mean, and you don't expect a rookie to be very good. Rookie kickers, usually struggle. So that's why I just find it very hard to believe that with everything that's on the line, the 49ers would lean on a rookie. Now, maybe they think that Moody kicked at Michigan, made a lot of big kicks at Michigan, made a lot of big kicks in bad weather at Michigan, has, the proverbial it. He's got just that special something that you want to see in a kicker. He's got what Robbie Gould has, but he's half his age, almost literally half his age. And they decide to use the third round pick on him. I mean, that's one scenario. Another scenario is that they've already got Zane Gonzalez on the roster, and that they get a long look at Zane Gonzalez this offseason and into training camp. And then after training camp, when teams start to whittle down their rosters, some of these teams have two kickers right now. The 49ers, if they're not happy with Gonzalez, they pick up somebody else at that point. That's feasible. And then I think for Robbie, I just think that they don't want to pay that amount of money for him. Doesn't do kickoffs as well as they would like. I'm sure Gould doesn't really want to be doing kickoffs anymore. But they're obviously far apart on money at this stage.
Matt Miller of the Bleacher Report, or formerly the Bleacher Report, now at the ESPN, said the Niners, according to the people he's talking to, are sniffing around this tight end class more than any other team. I'm not sure how you even measure something like that or quantify something like that, but I'll take it for what it's worth. I know Matt. I'll tell you, I think he's credible. What? Give me your read on that. Is that drafting George Kittle off the roster a year early? Is it a statement that they don't like their tight ends behind Kittle, or is it just a recognition that this is a stellar, once in a decade tight end class and they want to get in on the party? You've been following this thing all spring. Is there a tight end that you could picture them drafting?
Yeah, I mean, this is a team that hasn't used a day one or a day two pick on a tight end since Vance McDonald back in 2013. So they're overdue to, especially a team that leans on the tight end like the 49ers do. Right now it's Kittle, it's Ross Dwelly, and it's Charlie Warner. and they're both of the guys behind Kittle are fine, but neither has distinguished himself. So it just makes total sense for the 49ers to take what's being billed as like the greatest tight end draft in the last quarter century and find somebody there. And yeah, I think there are several guys, and most of these guys play in the Big Ten, which means that they're been doing a lot of inline blocking and stuff like that. So Luke Schoonmaker makes sense. Payne Durham makes sense. Brenton Strange makes sense. If they wanted to go with sort of a guy with a very high ceiling, but a low floor, maybe Zach Kuntz from Old Dominion, really long-limbed guy. Would be a great target in the passing game. And then one of the best pass catchers is a guy who probably won't get drafted until the 5th or the 6th round, and that's Will Mallory at Miami. He needs to work on his blocking, but of all the guys, when I watch him, he reminds me of Kittle the most when he's got the ball in his hands. He really can make plays deep down the field. My sense is that the 49ers want somebody who can play in line and therefore kind of take some of the heavier, more taxing snaps off of Kittle's plate. I mean, not all of them. You want Kittle in that role a lot, but you don't want him taking 99% of the offensive snaps in a game, and you don't want him taking every inline snap. There's just a lot of wear and tear there when you're kind of battling 275-pound defensive ends all day.
One guy that I read about is Dakota Allen from Eastern Kentucky as a late round guy, converted quarterback, and he had 25 reps on the bench of 225, and though he's had a leg injury, so he may not be ready for the season. But that guy sounds like a late round sleeper. If I said to you, based on all your intel, and you're a guy who does do a lot of work. I mean, I really respect your work. I'll give you the guy that I think, but I'd love to know if I said, based on all your intel, you got to put whatever amount of money, $1, $100, $1 million. You got to put it on the line that the 49ers have interest in that player. And we know who they've brought in and that kind of thing, but sometimes it's a smokescreen, sometimes it's legit, and we don't know which is which, right? So you can't necessarily go on just, well, they brought this guy in, they looked at him. And then there's other whispers around the circuit from scouts and other teams and agents, and I know you talk to a lot of people. If you had to say the one guy that you would say, you know what, if I got to bet $1 on some prospect being a 49er post-draft, I'm going with this guy.
Well, I mean, we've talked about a couple of guys. Fehoko,
Sure.
I mean, Marty, your guy, Marte Mapu from
Sac State.
Sacramento State.
Stingers up, baby. Bzz,
Yeah, exactly.
bzz, bzz.
The guy that I think has, we're talking about who they would take with their first pick, which is number 99 overall. My guess is going to be Blake Freeland, the offensive tackle from BYU, because of a number of things. It fits a need. Mike McGlinchey's gone. They've got Colton McKivitz there. I'm not sure whether they're 100% sold on McKivitz as their right tackle for the future. And Freeland is absolutely huge in terms of length. He's really, really good on the hoof. He's athletic. What he needs is more seasoning. So, somebody you get late in the third, you don't have to play him right away. You can give him a year to develop. I think Chris Furster is really good at that. There was one more reason. He's been training with Joe Staley in Southern California. Joe Staley was basically his coach early in the off season to get him ready for the combine and to get him ready for pro days and stuff like that. So he's started to see a lot of the movement skills that he'd need if he got drafted by the 49ers.
Interesting. I'm going to go with two names. Sometimes you got to cut through a lot of stuff. Not everybody's credible out there. The one guy that I absolutely know personally, and I know he's credible, is my good friend Tony Pauline, who's a longtime NFL scout and he just doesn't say things unless he absolutely has them sourced. And he says the 49ers are hot on the trail of Trey Clark, a slot corner from the University of Louisville. And then I watched the Clark film and I thought, wow, he's only 5'10", 180, but man, this guy's got a little bit of K'Wan Williams in him. I mean, he plays huge, right? He's big against the run. He's big against the pass. I'll go with Tony Pauline. I think Trey Clark is going to be on the board and right there when they pick at the end of the third, right around pick 100. And I'll go with Trey Clark, especially at a position of need. And then after the draft, I think the kid is working out with Ayuk from Clemson. I could see them. I don't think they're going to go for a receiver. I think they'll go for a receiver after the draft, most likely. I think other needs will be prioritized during the draft. And there's a Clemson receiver named Joseph Nada who's been working out with Ayuk, I think he's from Sacramento, which makes a lot of sense. I think he might even be from Rockland. But Joseph Nada from Clemson is really a big-bodied receiver, 6'2", 220, but moves well, great athlete, great hands. Those are the two guys that I'll go with as if I got a wager on who's going to be a Niner, I'll go with Trey Clark and Joseph Nada. You have a thought on either?
Yeah, the nickel cornerback is interesting because I think the 49ers really liked Diamador Lenore in that role as sort of the replacement, the future nickel for this team. But Lenore right now is their outside cornerback. If that's the case, then they need to find a really good nickel, long-term nickel as well. So that makes a lot of sense. There were 3 or at least 2 really good corners at this local pro day too. Mekhi Blackman, who played at USC, and Rajon Wright, who I think is he Oregon State?
Yeah, Oregon State.
Yeah, Oregon State. And Wright, is out of central casting for what the 49ers like at that position. Big, tall, long arms, plays very physically. Blackman is a little bit smaller. He's a little bit more kind of Jason Verrett-ish. But both of these guys play press coverage, and that's what the 49ers like, or at least that's what D'Amico Ryans liked. I don't know exactly what Steve Wilkes is going to bring in, but that makes a lot of sense.
I love the Kerry Hyder re-signing. Every time I talk to a Niner defensive lineman, they're like, man, Kerry Hyder took me under his wing. Drake Jackson's like, man, I learned tons from Kerry Hyder. I'm like, technique and that kind of thing. And he's like, no, it's off the field stuff. He really helped me just kind of in life. I love the motor on Kerry Hyder. Man, if you're going to sign an extra D lineman and he's going to, and you're getting right down to it, you can't go wrong with Kerry Hyder. He can play every spot, and his motor just never stops.
Yeah, Kerry Hyder's locker is right next to Trent Williams, and there's a lot of conversations going on there. That's the wisdom zone of the locker room. If you're a young player, you want to stroll by that section of the locker room and just kind of listen to what's being discussed there. So yeah, I totally agree with you. Great guy to have on the roster. I think he's in for a dogfight this year to hold on to his roster spot. But that's what the 49ers want, to kind of put pressure on the back end of that roster. And maybe somebody will kind of step up.
I'll tell you one thing that stood out to me when I watched it this week. Last question here, but one thing that really stood out to me is how well or what Sam Darnold looked like this year in Carolina. I never have liked Sam Darnold, Matty. I didn't like him at SC, didn't like him with the Jets, didn't even watch his videotape when they signed him from Carolina because I'm like, I know what Sam Darnold is. Then I finally got around to it this week, and man, if you watch the highlight reel, Sam Darnold looked really, really good. And it makes me interested to see what he's going to be this summer. I know you're on record, because I've already asked you about Trey, that you don't think he's going to be traded, that you think if he's going to be traded, it will be next year, not this year. But here's to me, the question within the question. What do the 49ers really want? Do they want a competition between Trey and Sam and maybe eventually between Trey and Brock? Or do they not want that competition and they really want to commit to Brock Purdy and maybe move Trey Lance on, maybe to an AFC team where he can play right now and there won't be any controversy? Let me just ask you this. If the Texans call at the end of or at the beginning of day 2 or between day 1 and day 2 and say, we will give you that high second round pick for Trey Lance, will the 49ers say no? Or will you think the 49ers might say, man, Isaiah Foskey's on the board, or Kalijah Cansey's on the board, or Michael Mayer's still on the board, or, some player, some tackles on the board, and pull the trigger? What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think that's enough to
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it's a second round pick. This is a team that used 3
Yeah.
to get Trey Lance. And, we still haven't really seen Trey Lance at all. So, I mean, one of the risks there is that you're giving up, you gave up all that to get Lance, then you're giving him up for a second. He's played 4 games. I mean, what if this guy turns out to be a sensational quarterback?
They could look very bad.
That would look like the dumbest series of moves in the history of the NFL. So, I mean, the 49ers almost have to protect themselves in that scenario. I want to, when you were talking just now, it reminded me of something I saw at the local pro day. Frank Gore was there.
Nice.
And, Frank Gore is wanting to get into, personnel evaluation. And Jed York has said that he'd be interested in adding Frank Gore in some capacity. But Frank Gore was talking up Sam Darnold. Frank Gore and Sam Darnold were teammates with the Jets. And Frank Gore was very effusive in his praise of Sam Darnold, talking about how he's very skilled, throws no-look passes, can do all of the kind of high-level things that, Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen can do. And that definitely caught my ear, that he was willing, unprompted, to, say a lot of really good things about Sam Darnold.
That is interesting, because I believe in Frank's credibility greatly. All right, it's the 14th. We're the draft is less than 2 weeks away. Is the draft crush going to be revealed momentarily? Where in this process exactly does the draft crush come down? Are we in the finals? Is it are there 2 guys that are battling it out inside the head of Matt Barrows?
The head and the heart. The head and the heart, Larry. I can tell you that there is white smoke coming out of the Vatican chimney on this. It's happening. I've made my decision. I think that we're gonna make the big reveal on Tuesday.
Ooh.
So you have to wait through the weekend and an extra day. Can you wait that long, Larry?
Well, you know how people on the night, on the night of Thanksgiving, they sleep in line to get like a $47 savings on a Sony TV.
Yeah.
Could I sleep outside your place with my son and some of my season ticket holder friends, and maybe barbecue on your lawn? And people are walking by, and 5 hours from now, the draft crush is going to be revealed. That's what we're doing here. Sorry, police officers, we can't vacate. Later today, something important will be happening.
I'm going to send you a draft crush advent calendar where each day you open a little window, and it's somebody who's not the crush, but then on the last day, it's revealed.
Will you be as secretive as the 49ers were about the local pro day? Clint told me, you know what? There will be a list, but it will only be handed out to the people in attendance.
Yeah.
Very secretive.
Very secretive. Yeah. We didn't get the list until we were walking out the door.
Were you blindfolded and turned around in circles to lose your sense of direction?
Well, I think there was a question about who was going to be there, and who was going to be there just to watch. So they didn't want to put anything out that ended up being inaccurate.
Matty, you're the best. We love your stuff. I know you got a hard out at 11:15. We're going to get out with 2 minutes to spare to let you get ready for whatever's coming next in your day. You're the man. We appreciate you, and hopefully we'll talk to you in and around the draft.
Yeah, we need to have a pre-draft one right before the draft, where we discuss what's going to happen.
Sounds good. Maybe next Wednesday we'll dial you up. Thanks, brother. Have a great day.
All right. Talk to you soon, Larry.
There you go. Matt Barrows, the best. There's a lot of good 49er content creators. And I said it last night on the live stream. If I had to vote, I would vote for Matt. And I want to make it, it's not like I'm anti the other guys, but Barrows is good. Really good. Really, really, really solid. All right, I'm going to throw this one question into the chat for you guys. Well, maybe there's two. I got two questions for you. Because I'll chat for 15 minutes with you, and we'll read some of your chats. Two questions for you. What do you think the 49ers ultimately want? Do you think they want a competition between Brock Purdy, Sam Darnold, and Trey Lance? Do you think they want that competition? Everybody else competes. Why wouldn't they, right? You compete at tackle, you compete at corner, they compete at safety, they compete at defensive end. Why wouldn't they compete at quarterback? Do they want a competition between eventually Brock and Trey? Or do you believe that they really don't want that competition, that they want to name Brock as their guy? They want to commit to Brock, and that Darnold is just here as a means to move Trey. So you can't move Trey if you don't have another quarterback. And what do you make of the DTR smoke? Are they really interested in Dorian Thompson-Robinson? Supposedly he's going to go in the third or fourth round. They're meeting with him twice. Why are they meeting with him twice if he's going in the third round? They're not taking him in the third round. Or are they? Is there a scenario that exists where maybe DTR could be picked in the early fourth round if they loved him? And I kind of agree with Matt. I'm not sure exactly where he goes. I think some people saying third. I think that's too high. I think DTR is probably more like a fifth round pick. But if you wanted to make sure you got him, you'd probably have to take him in the fourth. I don't think anybody is taking him in the first three rounds. I don't think he's a day one or day two guy. I really don't. Too much depth at quarterback in this draft. There's too many people there's aspects of his game that people won't like. He's very light. He's not 220 pounds. He's like 205 pounds. He's very, very lean. He's got kind of a linear frame. I really like him. I like the athleticism. I like the off-schedule potential. I don't know if he's going to be an NFL star. I would say no. I would say I'm not even sure if he's going to be an NFL starter. But I like his potential as a guy who can play in the NFL, maybe as a backup. But what do you believe the 49ers want at the end of the day? Do they want that competition, or do they want to anoint Brock Purdy their number one guy and move Trey Lance on? What do you believe? And then the second question is the question that I asked Maddie. If I gave you, I'm not giving you the money. I'm telling you, you got to wager everything you own, everything you have in your name to one guy based on anything, based on sources that you have, based on, workout, who they've worked out, positions of need, scheme fit, maybe just guys that you think you have a great feel for. I threw out my two as far as who's going to be a Niner. We're now inside the window. The draft is coming up on the 27th. 27th of April, the first round of the NFL draft. 28th is round 2 and 3. 29th is rounds 4 through 7. And then there'll be a slew of players drafted or signed afterwards. If you had to bet everything you have on one or two guys that you really believe are going to be Niners, who are you going to go with? He says Junior Fehoko. He mentioned Marte Mape. Love those guys. I want both those guys. The Sac State kid, I think he's more of a linebacker than a safety. But I love his coverage ability, and I love his special team ability, and I would definitely try to get an extra day 3 pick and draft Marte Mapu. The more I watch the San Jose State kid, Fehoko, Junior Fehoko, he's badass. I mean, seriously, this guy's a bad A, man. He's violent. And, I don't care what his measurables are. His film is awesome. And I could definitely see that guy in a rotation at defensive end for the Niners. Probably have to use a 4th or 5th round pick on him. I could see that. But if I got to go with 2 guys, I'm going with the guys that I told him. I'm going with Tony Pauline's pick of Trey Clark, who I think is a highly productive slot corner at the University of Louisville. I think they will use one of those first 3 picks on Trey Clark. I love that one. And the other one is Joseph Nada, the receiver from Clemson who's been working out with Brandon Ayuk. I love Joseph Nada. I loved him a couple years ago. I saw him with Clemson. I thought, man, this guy's put together. He's big. He's 6'2", 217 pounds, 220 pounds, in that range. Great hand-eye coordination. Go look at his highlight reel. He's made some incredible catches. Plucks the ball with his hands. He's working out with Ayuk. Probably going to go undrafted. And they could probably sign him after the draft. And that's the kind of receiver I could see them adding. They've got the speed threat in Danny Gray. They've got Ayuk and Debo, big physical guys. They've got Juwan Jennings, who's their possession guy. I think they have the replacement for Juwan Jennings and Tay Martin. Another awesome catch radius guy. But Joseph Nada is, 6'2", 217, really strong, super athletic, big-bodied receiver. Played some significant football on a high level. I'm going Trey Clark, Joseph Nada. I love Fehoko. I love Marte Mapu. Love those guys. Love to see those guys with the Niners. But yeah, who's the guy that you would absolutely wager is going to be a 49er? And where do you think the Niners' mindset is? I think there's a lot of people that I say I'm reading the tea leaves. Someone said, Larry, you're reading the tea leaves and the Niners are drinking coffee. Good line. Somebody had that for me today on Twitter. You're reading tea leaves. Somebody else, I think, threw that out. I'm just reading the tea leaves. I think there's starting to be a lot less people crushing me on my prediction that Trey Lance is going to be traded because I think other people can kind of see the clouds forming. And Maddie, I totally agree with Maddie's perspective that why would you trade any quarterback when you went through quarterbacks like a hot knife through butter, going through butter? I mean, why would you trade anybody? You need more quarterbacks, 5, 6, 7. No, but you need more, not less. So I understand that thinking. But I also think that the 49ers, if they could turn Trey Lance into a great player and replace him with a player they like in the draft who could kind of slot behind Purdy and Darnold, I think they may choose that path. And if you ask me the question, do the Niners want a quarterback competition between Brock and Trey, between Trey and Sam? I know they want a competitive camp, but I don't know that they want that. I don't know that they want to open that can of worms. To me, the way they've supported Brock this offseason makes me feel like they, instead of looking at Trey's good traits and saying, yeah, he's coming on, it's going to be a great competition, it's like, no matter what he does, like what would Trey or Sam even have to do this summer in camp, in the preseason, in games 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, in the first month of the year if Brock were out? What exactly would they have to do to make the Niners go, no, we're not going back to Brock. We're staying with Sam. We're staying with Trey. Is there anything that they could do that's going to supersede the quarterback that won, all these games down the stretch and 2 playoff games? I would say no. So it kind of begs the question, what do you believe at your core? I mean, this is kind of the question within the question. What do you believe at your core is the 49ers' intention here? They're not going to tell you what it is because they're going to play their cards close to the vest. All teams do. Do you believe they want an open competition, or do you believe they want to anoint Brock as the 1, have Darnold be there as the 2, and have fill in the blank, DTR, as their number 3? Because if you ask me, I would say I really think they fear a quarterback competition. I think they fear some kind of situation where the fans in the locker room are calling for play quarterback A, and they want to play quarterback B, whether that's Darnold or Trey. Whether it's pretty clear they like Brock, but I don't think they want Trey Lance to sit there and have half the team going, yeah, go with Trey, and then the other half going, no, go with Brock. I don't know that they want half the team going, get Sam Darnold, he's got to be in there, and then the other half of the team going, no, we scored 33 a game and won 2 playoff games with Brock. I know it sounds normal to say, yeah, we want a quarterback competition because we just want a competitive camp. But what do you believe they really want? Do they want that competition, or do they want to just anoint Brock based on his play, the starter, and have a little bit more of a clear-cut pecking order in the quarterback room where Brock's your unquestioned 1, Darnold's your unquestioned 2, and DTR is your unquestioned 3? To me, that's at the kind of the crux of the whole thing. And then as far as will Trey be traded and that kind of thing, and there were people that push back and say, oh, it's too soon. I agree. It does seem too soon. And then there's people going, oh, but you're not going to get anything for him. Well, which is it? Are you not going to get anything for him, or is it too soon? And then I asked Maddie about trading him, and Maddie's like, look at the price that they paid. Does it matter what they paid? One thing I think we can all say definitively, they are not going to get what they paid for Trey Lance. But does that mean they wouldn't move him? I don't think so. I think they would chalk it up as an L and take what they can get. And I do believe if the Texans, there's this talk that the Texans don't like C.J. Stroud's cognitive testing, and that if Bryce Young goes 1 to Carolina, and maybe Carolina wants Stroud, and it's just all a smokescreen. But if Carolina goes Brock Young, or I should say not Brock Young, if they go with the little tiny quarterback from Alabama at the top of the draft, Bryce Young, number 1, it sounds like the Texans at 2 do not want to go C.J. Stroud, Anthony Richardson, Will Levis. I'll tell you, for me, I'd have a hard time. I mean, I know Bryce Young processes well, but he's so small. So small. He is mobile, but then he's also, you're trying to handicap a quarterback from Alabama who has just awesome talent all around him. And they say his processing ability is off the charts, and he did incredibly well on this cognitive test. But, man, I'd have a hard time passing on Anthony Richardson. 6'4", 245, runs like the wind. I mean, my God. The skill set on Anthony Richardson is just off the charts. That would be a hard guy to pass on. But let's just say Carolina is going with the Alabama kid, number 1, and Houston is looking at number 2 and saying, you know what, we'd rather go Will Anderson. We'll take the impact. D'Amico's a defensive coach. Maybe he wants an impact guy. He just signed a 6-year deal. He's got plenty of time. But if you're D'Amico, do you go C.J. Stroud in his low cognitive test and take a chance? Seems like that's unlikely. Do you go Will Anderson and then maybe trade your second-round pick to the 49ers for Trey Lance? That seems to be viable. That to me makes sense. I think that might even be a solid plan. If I was a Houston Texan fan, I'd be more excited about that. Why take a huge risk at the top of the draft if you're not totally sold? And then you could bring in another young athletic quarterback and bring him in at a bargain price. But where Maddie and I differ is that Maddie doesn't think that a high second-round pick is enough. I think it may be, because you got to remember who might be there. It might be Kalijah Cansey. It might be Emmanuel Forbes, the number 1 corner from Mississippi State, who I love. It might be Michael Mayer sitting there from Notre Dame. It might be Isaiah Foskey, who just drove down to Santa Clara to meet with the Niners, despite the fact they don't have a pick before 99, and he's projected to go late first, early second. Isn't that kind of interesting? So a player who's projected to go late first, early second, went down there to meet with the 49ers on his own time for nothing, just so he can help them build their future free agent dossier? I don't know about that. I mean, is he that nice of a guy that he cares about the Niners' future free agent dossier? Or did the Niners say, hey, Isaiah, or to his agent, probably more likely, why don't you come down? We'd love to meet you. We're huge fans. You're on our very short list of special players that if we get the 33rd pick in the draft from the Texans in any kind of trade for Trey Lance, we may go with you. I mean, Isaiah Foskey could be a bookend to Nick Bosa for the next 10 years. So to me, it seems like a low price for Trey, but then look at some of these players that might be on the board there. Kalijah Cansey, in the draft, mock drafts I've seen, anywhere between like 25 and 35. He's right in that window. He's incredible, man. I mean, you add Kalijah Cansey to Armstead, Bosa, Hargrave, and watch the hell out. I mean, seriously, that would be intriguing. I mean, he's a great football player. You put a number one corner like Emmanuel Forbes, who has 6 pick sixes in the Niners secondary. You now have that big Tariq Woolen, Marcus Peters. You got that Jalen Ramsey. You've got that big, dominant number one, shut you down, man-to-man corner. They haven't had that in a while. You get Michael Mayer, baby Gronk. You throw him in with Kittle. That makes you a lot better. You add Isaiah Foskey. He could be a foundation piece for a decade. And there's a couple other difference makers right there. Jahmyr Gibbs from Alabama. They don't need her back, but my God, Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be a superstar. He's terrific. He's explosive. He can catch. The D lineman from Northwestern had some of the craziest looking workout numbers and film from the Senior Bowl I've ever seen. This guy is just like a explosive bulldozer. And some people think he's going to be a bust. Other people think he's going to be a superstar. But Adetomiwa Adebawore. So, I mean, you could be staring at any of those players potentially in a trade. I think I'd like a little bit more than that too, because, man, if Trey does what I think he's going to do and fulfill his potential, any one of those guys is going to look bad by comparison, 5 years from now. Definitely further down the road. So, yeah, it's, as Greg Escon says, Lance could be a foundational player for a decade at the most important position. Yeah. So it really just comes down to, I agree. So it really just comes down to it's not about what I see or what you see. It's about what you think the Niners see. Do you think they want that quarterback competition and they absolutely are open-minded about who their quarterback of the future is? Or are you in the camp that believes they've already made the evaluation on Trey and Brock, and their evaluation is Brock, and they want to commit to him, and Darnold is a part of committing to Brock, and DTR's flirtation is about more committing to Brock, and Trey gets moved on draft day for draft capital? This, to me, is the central question surrounding the 49ers with the draft approaching. I gave you my prediction long ago, so you know what I'm predicting. But as far as rooting for, I don't know. I don't know what to root for, because I really believe Trey's going to fulfill that potential. And then all these players are going to look not good in comparison to his long-term potential. But, there's also a lot of heat in this debate between who should be the quarterback, and maybe the Niners fear that. Maybe the Niners don't want that. Maybe they feel that would be a distraction. Maybe they feel like half their locker room would want Trey, and that half their locker room would want Brock, and that there would be guys in the room that want Darnold. Maybe they want a more clear-cut, Brock's the guy. Let's push everything, all chips to the middle on Brock. I don't know. And it's an odd time to do it because Brock's coming off the injury. All right, let's do this. Play a couple spots. I'm going to come back. I'm going to hit the chat coming up next on the Krug Show. But first, let me tell you about Pig in a Pickle. They are the best barbecue place in Northern California. They're open 7 days a week in Corte Madera. They're open Wednesday through Sunday in Emeryville. Pig and a Pickle, the best BBQ there is. Here's what it looks like.
We grew up with a Sunday dinner. That means no matter how busy you were, no matter where the hell you were, you came to dinner on a Sunday night. Yeah, Sunday dinner without sausage, it's like a church without God. You know, how can you go to church if you don't believe in God? You know, and along with the sausage also became the discussions. That was discussion night. You know, it wasn't a typical family that you sit there and you're quiet, you know, and you don't talk with a mouthful. Oh no, man. Italians talk when they're eating. Italians even talk when they're sleeping. And definitely we talk with our hands. So if we can't express it through our mouth, through our lips, we express it with our hands. So, and that's what sausage is, really. It's an expression, you know, that life is good.
All right, welcome back to the Krueger Show on a Friday. This has been a busy week, doing a lot of stuff. Check me out later today with Mark Willard at 2 o'clock on 95.7 The Game on the radio. That's right. On the radio today, 2 to 6, Tim Legler is going to be in the house, and we're going to look ahead to that Warrior Kings series. We haven't talked about that this week. Yeah, we have. We talked a ton about it, but we're going to talk more about it today, I'm sure. And I got some questions about this series that I want to throw Mark. I mean, how are the Warriors going to defend Domantas Sabonis? Is Steph Curry going to be able to stay in front of De'Aaron Fox? Where's transition defense in the rankings of importance as far as what we see in this series? How big is that? And what is going to be the net difference of Andrew Wiggins? Because you know the way basketball is. In baseball, you add a great hitter to your lineup, your lineup only gets better. And there's no chance it gets worse. You add a great hitter to a baseball lineup, a great starter to a baseball rotation. The rotation's better. The lineup's better. There's no debate. But you add a significant player in hockey or basketball, sports that rely on guys working together and flow and all that, there's no guarantee that that's going to be a net gain. Wiggins could be great himself, but he could take away minutes from other guys or make other guys in the lineup not play as well. It's not necessarily immediate for sure that he's going to step in and just start kicking ass. He's been out for almost 2 months. So we're going to get into several angles on the Warriors, and Legs will join us. So join us on 95.7 today between 2 and 6 p.m. I'll be sitting in for the great Dan Dibley. All right. And then tonight, after the radio show's over, I'm going to get in my car. I'm going to come back to the creek. When I get here, the Giants game will be over by then, unless it goes extras. And I'll be on with Danny. We'll talk Giants Tigers tonight on the channel. So today the plan was Matt Barrows, and then the radio, and then me and Danny doing post game tonight. And maybe I'll even invite some of the other guys, maybe Red, maybe Baller, maybe Cy. Maybe I'll invite the whole crew tonight over and see if we can get a little pregame breakdown on Warriors Kings on a Friday night. Bright and early tomorrow morning on the Krueger Show, Jason Ross stops by. You say, who's Jason Ross? Jason Ross, a good buddy of mine. I've known him for 20 years. KHTK Radio in Sacramento, 1140. He's on that morning show. Does a great job with Carmichael Dave. Jason Ross, just one of the salt of the earth people. And he'll be by tomorrow morning, bright and early. I asked him to stop by at 9 a.m. to get our conversation going on Warriors Kings tomorrow at 9. And then, of course, we got Warriors Kings tomorrow night. Was it 5 o'clock, 5:30, something like that? And we'll do a post game after that. And then Sunday morning, catch me on the Krug Show for Grant Napier, who's going to stop by and break down Game 1 for us on Sunday morning. And I can't wait for that, because no matter what happens in that game, the guy that I want to be talking to on Sunday morning is Grant fucking Napier, because he's terrific. He's absolutely terrific, and we're lifelong friends. All right, let's go to the chat. I starred a bunch of chats, and I'm going to go right to the bottom of the chat and go up. Clarsard. Larry grew up with the Sunday dinner. Larry grew up eating too much Sunday dinner. Darren says, Larry's working on the Lord's Day. Well, sorry, Lord, but I will be working. Bobby, Larry, you still working with Ryan? Absolutely. Haven't talked to Ryan in a few weeks, but we're going to try to get him back Saturday night for a little Warrior Kings post game. And look forward to hearing his perspective. He's been working on a couple other things, but yeah, we're still working with Rye, still loving Rye. Hopefully he's still loving us, and we can't wait to hear his basketball takes on Warriors Kings. We'll do that. Hopefully, I told Danny, I said, make sure you tell Rye we want him Saturday night. So we'll see. We'll see if we can get Rye in the house Saturday night. We'll try. I think we can. Gregus Khan. Larry seems like a hard worker to me. All right. Thank you. Joe says, is Parag gone from the front office also? Because he's going to be like the guy running the soccer team? I don't think he's going to leave. I think Parag's going to have a role, but I don't have any confirmation on that. I did not read that story. I just saw the headline. What else? Bomber T in the house. Love Bomber T. Says Larry's grinding. Always, bro. Always. Bobby D. You're lazy, Larry. You're fucking lazy. Here we go from Gregus. Barrows is the best 49er beat writer, in my opinion. Eric Hernandez, channel member. Thanks, Larry. Keep bringing back Barrows for Niners content. Oh, yeah. Are you kidding me? Matty B, if we're on the field and everybody is there, you'll see at training camp, I'll go over to Matt and just kind of bend his ear. Because he's a great guy. 2, I respect the hell out of him. 3, you're going to get little nuggets like I got from him about Frank Gore loving Sam Darnold, talking up Sam Darnold. It's things like that. Matty's a hustler. Matty works. and I'll say this too, as somebody who's in the locker room and talks to the players, there's some conversations in there, and I will not share who, but there's people that are just embarrassing in there. Maddie's on the other end of the spectrum. He asks great questions. He has great rapport with the players, great respect from the players. And to me, that matters. I'm not saying you got to be everybody's buddy, but you gotta be able to man to man walk up to somebody's locker, shake their hand, look them in the eye, ask them a probing question, maybe even ask them a tough question, but be a dude and just. And, when I say be a dude, I don't mean be a man, actually. I mean, just, be a regular person, and ask a regular question and just, get a response, and also do it in a professional manner. And that's what Matty does. So I got a lot of respect for him. Got this one from Greg. It says, if Trey Lance is part of the reason the team is winning, Purdy will be on the bench. If not, Purdy will be the man. As far as, if Trey, this is the NFL. If you get in there and you play awesome, that's what's going to keep you in there. And it doesn't matter what the rules are, if you can't lose your job because of an injury and so on and so forth. You're right. Gregus is totally right. Trey Lance steps into the lineup in September and starts playing like Patrick Mahomes, and the Niners start winning, then Trey Lance is the guy. That's how this thing works. It's a meritocracy, as Jim Harbaugh used to say. Mark Hope says, Larry crushing it this week. Thank you, man. Doing a lot this week. Doing an awful lot. And by the way, what we haven't done this week is we haven't talked to Jesse. We haven't talked to Vish. We haven't talked to Grant. We missed out on a lot of that stuff because doing the radio. But we'll be talking to all those guys next week. Haven't talked to Hensley. Haven't talked to a lot of the guys that we really enjoy talking to. And it's not because we don't want to talk to them. It's just scheduling-wise. I can only do so many things in the day. And I want to come on after some of these baseball games, talk Giants. I got to talk a little Warriors. The playoffs rolling around. I got, filling in, doing the radio all week. There's the commute in, the commute home. There's only so many hours in the day. But you guys know me. If I could invent more hours in the day, I would, and we'd be doing all of it. All right, let's go to the 20 or so chats that I have starred. These are starred chats. Think about that for a second. Jets Gang says, watch Sam Darnold become the starter. I'm telling you, did you guys do what I told you to do last night? Go watch the Sam Darnold 2022 Carolina Panther highlight reel. I mean, if he plays the way he looked in that highlight reel, he's going to be tough to beat. He's athletic. He's mobile. He was accurate. He looked good. He looked really good. And this is coming from somebody who not a Sam Darnold fan. Clarsard, Purdy's future is just as unknown as Trey's future, and that's the bottom line. Yeah, I mean, the surgery definitely puts Purdy in the uncertain category. No doubt about that. Bobby D439, if Brock starts and plays well, he should win Comeback Player of the Year. He was robbed of Rookie of the Year in 20 years. Last year will be remembered as Brock's year, not a Jets receiver. Yeah, Garrett Wilson was bad, though, man. He was incredible. How about the Jets? So Garrett Wilson won the Offensive Rookie of the Year, is that right? And Sauce won the Defensive Rookie of the Year. Not bad for Douglas, the GM. When you draft the Offensive and Defensive Rookie of the Year, I think you can kind of puff out your chest and be like, I'm pretty damn good. I'm pretty damn good. Douglas looking sharp there. Bomber T says, Larry, is Wiggins going to be a major contributor like last year? He was a key piece in the playoffs last year. Biggest wild card question. We don't know. We know he's coming back, and we know he's good, and we know he's been out for 7 weeks, but we don't know the net impact of his return. And we don't know that he's going to rebound like he rebounded last year in the playoffs, which was he rebounded like a madman. Wiggins last year in the playoffs was the best basketball of Andrew Wiggins' career. Can he replicate that off a 7-week absence? I don't know. It's been gone for almost 2 months. It's a major question. It's kind of like the wild card factor. Tony Nagatani. Thank you, Larry. Thank you, Matt Barrows. Thank you, Tony. Always like people who say thank you. Tony says, I think they want Trey to be the guy they spent 4 draft picks on. Do they still want that? Or have they resigned themselves to the fact that he is not going to fulfill that? The one thing that we're trying to evaluate is we're trying to evaluate Trey ourselves, but then we also have to evaluate their actions and what it seems like they think of Trey. And I think, if you just look at what's out there, there's enough things to point to where I think it's safe to say the 49ers like Brock Purdy and are going with Brock Purdy and maybe shopping Trey Lance. And now I think we're in the moment of, will they get what they want? Will they get enough to trade him? I think the answer to that's going to be yes, because I think what they would take, I don't think they're not delusional. They're not getting 3 number ones. So I think what they would take in return equals what other teams will offer. And that's part of the reason I predicted that he would be dealt, is because I think his trade cost in their eyes has gone from here down to here. And I think his value compared to other NFL quarterbacks is right, or other draft eligible quarterbacks, I think is maybe a little higher than the guys that will be available in the second round. And, I think the Niners would have to have a player on the board that they love, whether it's Isaiah Foskey, Michael Mayer, Kalijah Cansey, Emmanuel Forbes. I don't know. Maybe it's an offensive tackle. But I do think they would move him for a second-round pick, but only if a player that they had a first-round grade on fell to the second and they could make that deal. And even then, a straight-up second might not be enough. They might want a second and a third. They may want Texans have a second, a high second, and they have 2/3. If you're John Lynch, I think you ask for that high second and one of those 2/3. And maybe that's what you do. You get the player that you think is going to be a difference maker in the second, and you come back and take DTR, with one of those thirds. To me, that would be a little bit of a reach, but otherwise, I'm got to ask myself why. Why are they having multiple meetings with Dorian Thompson-Robinson when you have Trey Lance, Brock Purdy, and Sam Darnold? And Kyle Shanahan said they might go with 2 quarterbacks. Why are they having multiple meetings with DTR? I think they like DTR. And I think they see him as a developmental quarterback. And maybe behind Darnold and Purdy. Bomber T, I think the 49ers want the drama to end. I think so too. I think Bomber T might be right. And you say, well, really? They're going to, yeah, I think so. I also think they don't want to lose control. I mean, think about it. If they really have evaluated that Brock's the better guy, and they seem really confident about saying it, if they really believe that Brock is the better guy, then they probably would rather have a very clear-cut quarterback room. And the one difference, what does DTR have that Brock has, where they could say, you know what, this is our new philosophy? It's collegiate experience. DTR played 5 full seasons for the Bruins. Brock played 4 years as a starter in Ames. So they could now say, you know what we've learned in this process is that, collegiate starting experience is more valuable than we anticipated, and thus we're going with DTR. I could see it. Bass _ Spokane period Niner period fan. Just rolls off the tongue. It says Trey will be a Texan come September. Guy's making a prediction. Joseph A. says, I think they want Trey to either seize the job or for Brock to seize the job. I don't think they care who does. They just want someone to step up and become the franchise quarterback. Okay. Lee Gowland in the house. Hey, Lee. He says, hey, Larry, what's up, buddy? What's up, Lee? You like the UK flag that you gave me there? That looks sharp. Love that. Love that UK flag. I get a lot of comments on it, by the way. We'll reposition it. I'll make sure it's more prominently featured come football season. And then anybody catch up with Breezy? Breezy said he's going to send me a Niner flag. Breezy's got a sweet-looking Niner flag that I'd like to add. So if Breezy comes through with the Niner flag, I'm gonna move the one over my left shoulder, the Niner one over here, this one. I'm gonna move that one. I'm gonna move that over to the door. Yeah, back there, and I'm gonna move some stuff around so I'm Niner, and it looks real sharp. So that's coming. That's coming. But Lee, good to see you. And I'm fired up for the draft. Hopefully you are as well. Justin E. says Dawan Johnson and Dontavian Wicks. Now, they met with both those guys. I'll say this, Justin E. I think you're all over it. I mean, Dawan Johnson, to me, is one of my favorite sleeper players in this entire draft. Go watch him. He's kind of an undersized interior guy, but he can play defensive end. This guy kicked ass in the MAC. Dawan Johnson. That's your day 3 pick you got to make. Dawan Johnson. Dontavian Wicks, I'm not as much a fan of. Not as much a fan. I don't think the film I saw, Wicks doesn't separate from coverage. And his 40 time was just okay. He's got a big body. He's athletic. They met with him. But I'm not a Wicks guy. But I love me some Dawan Johnson. Might be one of my favorite players in this entire draft. Clarsard says, Laporta, Blake Freeland. You both are Niners. Yeah, and those two guys right there, it's easy to picture. Laporta, you shopped at the Iowa tight end market before. It seemed to work pretty well. And he's damn solid. I mean, you want to talk about safe? That's safe. Laporta. Laporta's, a lock to be I don't know if he's going to be great, but I think he's going to be a lock to be a contributing NFL tight end who, can sit in that soft spot in the zone and move the chains. I don't think he's superstar, and I don't think he's Kittle. But I definitely think he's a contributing tight end and maybe a good one. Blake Freeland, I think Freeland makes a lot of sense too. I just kind of wonder where they are at tackle. I kind of think they like Colton McKivitz, and I like Palczewski from. I've been calling him Palczewski or Palzewski, but it's actually Palczewski from Illinois. He's got the wrestling background. He's got the academic All-American background. He's tough. He's played right tackle. He's been a great pass protector and a good run blocker. Blocked for DeVito there and Brown for the Illini. I love that wrestling background for sure. So, he'd be the tackle I'm looking for, and he's probably more of a day 3 guy. Freeland is a better player, better prospect. I just kind of wonder if Freeland's a starter right away. I think there's some strength issues there that he's going to have to, I think he's going to have to get stronger. I don't think he's a plug. I don't think Blake Freeland is going to be starting for the Niners at tackle this year. I think he's more of a, like you draft him, you have him, and maybe next year he comes of age. I think he needs to put on some upper body strength. Carlos De La Fuente. I hope to God Adam Peters does not leave. I trust his talent evaluating skills over Lynch and Shanahan any day. It's hard to say, right? Because we don't really know who's making these evaluations. Bobby says all of Trey's fans have got to remember Brock accomplished what they hoped Trey would accomplish, being better than Jimmy and kind of mobile and keep plays alive while still being able to process the field. I think people are kind of dug in on what they're dug in on. It's just the way it is. I'm a Niner guy, but there are other people that would be like, I'm a Trey guy. I'm a Brock guy. I'm a Niner guy. That means I'm for Darnold, Trey, and Brock. Just make a call, and I think they can win with all three. I really do. Trey, I think, is going to need a little bit of time, but if they gave him the time, I think you'd start to see the potential. You would definitely start to see the improvement, but he definitely needs field time. Bass says, Bosa for Lamar, you heard it here first. No! God, no. No. You got to be kidding me. You're going to trade the teeth of your defense for a running quarterback who's got a huge contract, who's had 2 down years in a row, hoping that his performance from 3 years ago comes back and that a running quarterback is somehow healthier later in his career than he was earlier. I mean, I got like 19 reasons no. Plus, Shanahan kind of put that one to bed. Tony Nagatani, I could see both the Texans and the Titans dealing a future first for Trey Lance if they actually believe in him long term. I don't think they have to. I really don't. I think they can get him for less. Clarsard says, Larry, what if Trey's 4 games? What if Trey plays 4 games? Meanwhile, Brock heals. I think okay. This this one needed some punctuation. He says, Larry, what if Trey's 4 games while Brock is healing are electric? Then what? Then Trey is your starter. That simple. No doubt. Gregus says, Larry, has the locker room decided Brock is their quarterback? I think they have. I think they respect and like Trey, but I think they understand that Brock was on a different level than Jimmy and Trey. And they're understanding that, that he made a lot of plays off structure. It wasn't just like, hey, yeah, anybody can just call the plays and Shanahan. No. Brock Purdy made plays off structure, out of structure, late in the down. He definitely proved himself. I don't think there'd be a mutiny if they went to Trey, because I think Trey's very popular as well, but he'd have to prove it on the field. He'd have to literally prove it in camp and then in games. And if he did, they would ride with him for sure. Tony Nagatani, I really think DTR and Hainer is due diligence if they get a ridiculous offer for Trey. Or if they get an offer they want to take. As far as ridiculous, I don't know if it has to be. What's ridiculous? That's the thing. The one thing about Trey that we can't even decide on, some people can't decide if they want to keep him or trade him, but we can't even decide what his value is. You have people saying, they invested 3 number ones. They're not going to move him unless they get 3 number ones. They're not getting 3 number ones. But what's his value? What's his value? What would they take? I don't know. I really don't know. My guess is that Charles Robinson from Yahoo, who reported that they would take a 2nd-round pick, is probably on the money. NorCal says, Larry, I'm going to Pig in a Pickle in an hour. What's your suggestion? Which one, NorCal? Are you going to Emeryville or are you going to Marin County? If you're going to Marin County, definitely get a bag of potato chips. They don't sell them in Emeryville. You got to get the potato chips, and you got to get in the chat and tell me what you think. They do this, the barbecue chicken. They put a rub on the barbecue chicken, and the same rub they use on their chicken, they put on their potato chips before they cook them in the beef fat. Oh, my God. Greatest potato chip of all kind. It's kind of like a barbecue chip, but like if you ever had like Lay's barbecue chips, but like a million times better, but like that kind of flavor, that's what it is. It's like a barbecued potato chip, but like you can tell that it's like worlds better than any barbecue chip you ever had before. So get that for sure. Depends what you like, what you're in the mood for. The house-made hot links are incredible. To me, I can't make brisket the way Damon and Mary make brisket at Pig in a Pickle. So I always go the brisket, maybe go brisket sandwich. Definitely if they have it, because they run out a lot, go with a cup of the brisket chili. It's incredible. Absolutely incredible. I've never had chili with brisket in it until I went to Pig in a Pickle. It's amazing. The potato salad, really good. The collard greens, really good. So my mouth is watering describing that. I'm a little hungry. It's noon. I got to get a little something in me before I go into the city for for my 4-hour Willard extravaganza. But yeah, go say hi to Damon, say hi to Mary, and what you need to do is you need to take a little picture of yourself and then just text it to me or put it in the chat or put it out on social media, and then I'll forward it to Damon and Mary and say, Damon, look, my peeps, they're rolling in, baby. They're rolling in. But a couple people have done that. They've gone to Pig in a Pickle. They've seen Damon, the owner, at the Pig in a Pickle, and he's taking pictures with them as they're ordering. So yeah, check it out. Pig in a Pickle, the best, the absolute best. Mark Graves, who are the 49ers looking to pick at 99 in your Trent Baalke voice? All right. We really could use a slot corner, Larry. I'm going to say Keitrell Clark. He's got some length. He's had some injuries, which is something, as you know, I like. I'm going to say Keitrell Clark, a slot corner from Louisville. Yeah, I wrote his name down in an envelope, Larry. And I'm telling you, that kid can play football. He can play for me any day, Larry. After you go Keitrell Clark, if you could go with Laporta, the tight end, great kid. Oh my God, these Iowa kids, I'll tell you, Lar, the guy can catch the football. I wish he had an ACL tear. I'd feel better about drafting him. There you go. There's my Trent Baalke. I can't lose my voice before I go into the radio. Trent. One of a kind. We got this one from Dusty Gold. Quarterback room. What have you done for me lately? Rob C. Larry is an animal. Thank you. Sacktown Izzy in the house. Krug will do us all the honors of lighting the beam this weekend. Ain't going to be no beam lit. Sacktown. We're going to be sending you guys off into a summer of river rafting. You're gonna be talking to the missus saying, hey, all right, let's head out to Arden Fair Mall. The season's over. And then maybe we'll get a truck inner tube and float down the river. I'll tell you, what do I miss the most about going to Sac State in college? Dude, we used to get into at Sunrise Boulevard, put the truck tire inner tube in the water. We would have another inner tube with a rubber bottom. We'd throw ice in there, throw all of our beer in there, link all of our tubes together through like bungee cords, and just group float. 5 or 6 of my buddies, 5 or 6 of their girlfriends, and just float. And just sit there on a beautiful day in Sac and just float down the river. Get out at Howe. You've already had a few beers. You walk it off. Oh, yeah. Good days. Tie your T-shirt to the side or tie it around your head and then get out, flip your T-shirt on, and huff it back to the car. Good days. Good days in Sac. If you're going to beat the heat in the summertime in Sac, to me, that is the number one thing to do in Sac. I mean, there's all kinds of great cheap golf. And I'm sure there's people that live there that would give you other ideas. But, as far as if it's a beautiful day in Sacramento and I can do whatever I want from, let's say, June through September, if the river's flowing, get me out on the American River with some of my friends, in a beer drinking float, and let's just float and talk trash to each other. Lee Gallen says, "Love it, Larry. Appreciate you, Lee." Clarsart says, "Larry's collecting Niner flags like they're infinity stones." Thank you. Here's a good one. Breaking 88. DeAndre Coburn is DJ Jones 2.0. Sounds like somebody's watched my video. I did a nice little video on that on YouTube. My son turned it into a pretty sweet IG reel. Clarsart said Kincaid from Utah was tight end 3 a month ago. How's he tight end 1? That's crazy. Well, he probably had a good workout. I think Mayer had a bad workout, and that was really it. I'd still rather have Mayer than Kincaid. I think Mayer's bigger, stronger, a little bit better athlete. But Kincaid has got sticky hands. Very, very solid receiver. You cannot go wrong with Kincaid. He made Cam Rising's, day many, many times during this college football season. Here we go. Rob C. I want the 49ers to draft Cody Mauch. I mean, you can park your car between his teeth, but, man, that guy can play, and he's versatile. Yeah, I kind of like that one too. Only thing is, what is he? Is he a guard? He's not a left tackle. So is he? I don't know if do I want to go first pick on a guard, or can he play right tackle? To me, he looks like a guard. 49er Josh says brisket chili. G Martinez, brisket chili. hit home with the brisket chili. NorCal says he's going to Corte Madera. There you go. Get the potato chips. Damon, the owner of Pig and a Pickle, is a tall guy, big sports fan. Definitely seek him out. Say Krug sent me, and he said to say hi. And if you can snap a picture, tell him you want to snap a picture and tell him to text it to me. Damon loves to see when Krug Show fans roll in. Gregus Khan says Lance is worth less than what the Chiefs traded for Alex Smith. Doesn't make any. It's a question. Lance is worth less than what the Chiefs traded for Alex Smith. Doesn't make any sense. You're worth what somebody's willing to pay for you. But I agree. He should be worth more. Clarsard says, wish we had those picks we traded for Trey on a proven veteran. Oh, well. Yeah, you could have had Jamar Chase. Could have had Pitts, the tight end from Atlanta. There's some good players there. Marshawn Lattimore, I believe. Haruku Watoki. Sounds like Krueger just recommended the whole menu. Exactly. No, actually, it's a really extensive menu. Check it out. There's a bunch there. All right, that's pretty much going to do it. Let me get to the end of the chat here. 49er Josh, Larry the GOAT, you're definitely not lazy. Larry, you're not fucking lazy. Don't be fucking lazy, boy. Miss Urbanik. That's what he used to say to me. Larry, you're a good boy. And I'd be like, thanks, coach, but you're fucking lazy. When someone gives you a nice compliment and you're like, thank them, and then they rip you mercilessly to your face? I really like you, but you're a goddamn asshole. It's like, what? I thought you liked me. I love you, boy. I love you. Nobody hustles like you hustle. But Larry, you're fucking lazy. I miss that guy. Roadhog, why do people look at Trey Lance not playing as worse than Jordan Love not playing much after 3 years? Well, because Jordan Love is sitting behind Rodgers. No question. And so that's always like, of course he's not going to play. Where Trey not playing, and he's played by Jimmy. So I think that's a big part of it. Now this year he was hurt. These quarterbacks develop at their own rate, and everybody wants everybody to be good on their timetable. It's not the way it works. Vinny Testaverde had a damn good NFL career. He was a high pick. He was not good when Tampa needed him to be good. But he was damn good years later with the Ravens. Do you see how that works? Sometimes Alex Smith was not good for Mike Nolan. He was damn good for Andy Reid. See how that works? Takes time. Their timetable is their timetable. So you say to me, hey, do you like Trey Lance? Yeah, I do. I like Trey Lance. Do I like him on Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch's timetable this year? No. But I like Trey Lance. 49er Josh, lazy river ride. Yeah. Bomber T says Folsom Lake is full. I'll have the boat out all summer. Now look, sometimes this is the only way to cool down in Sacramento in the summertime. Get out on the water, Lake Folsom, Comanche, wherever you're at. Dusty Gold, Larry the Party Animal, drunkenness and beer belly. I don't know about that. Maybe I talk too much of a big game, but I used to love to float down the river. Terror Dome in the house. What's up, Terror Dome? He says Michael Mayer looks so much like Gronk, it ain't funny. Yeah, I mean, Michael Mayer, to me, that's number one. If you say, who are you absolutely, if you're trading Trey Lance, what do you absolutely want to get out of it? I want Michael Mayer. I want a Pro Bowl. I want this. If I'm trading Trey Lance, I've got to hit on that pick. If I'm trading him for a pick, I have to hit on the pick. You cannot trade Trey Lance and pick some guy who doesn't make your team. That's like how to get fired. If you trade Trey Lance for a pick, you have to turn that pick into not a good player, a great foundational player. If you trade him for a pick and that pick becomes Michael Mayer, nobody's going to care. Why? Because Michael Mayer's going to the Pro Bowl. He's a Pro Bowl caliber tight end that people are going to be like, you know what? Yeah, you lost Trey, but you did add a Pro Bowl caliber tight end. And then you win a Super Bowl. And then all of a sudden now you're at a position of strength. And if Trey goes somewhere else, Houston, and 3 years from now, he's a great quarterback for Houston, it's okay. It's okay. Because Michael Mayer came here and made you a Super Bowl contender. Jose says, good show as always, Larry, from Orlando. Thank you, brother. Thanks for watching in Orlando. Breaking 80 says, even the Hall of Famer Steve Young took time. Tampa gave up on him. Exactly. Does take time. Takes time. Just because you want a guy to succeed on your time frame doesn't mean that it's going to happen. We got this one. AJ, he says, you just explained why the Buckner trade was so bad. Yeah. You cannot, exactly. You can't trade Buckner for a draft choice and then draft Kinlaw. If Kinlaw had been Chris Jones, suddenly people wouldn't have said anything about Buckner being traded. But the fact that it was Kinlaw, now it's like, you missed. You traded Buckner for a pick and you whiffed on the pick. If you trade Trey for a pick, you better go with somebody who comes through for you. And that's why when I first threw out the idea of trading Trey, and I said, well, I don't love it, but I'll tell you where it makes sense is if you can turn around and turn that pick into Michael Mayer. And this is when I thought Mayer was going top 15. Now there's a very good chance he goes somewhere between 20 and 30. And who knows? I mean, but to me, that guy is like one of the safest players in the entire draft. And if they can get him and you can have a year of Kittle and Mayer, or maybe a couple years of Kittle and Mayer, man, that would be so hard to pass up. All right, that is going to do it for us. Check me out at 2 o'clock with Willard on 95.7 The Game. Until then, and then, of course, we'll be back for a little Giants Tigers post-game, first game of the road trip. Check that out on my channel around 7:30. Danny's going to get the proceedings going on his channel, NorCal Sports Network, at roughly 6:30 at the end of the game. So go over there at 6:30 and join Danny at 6:30 after Willard and Dibs featuring Larry Krueger finishes at 6 after the Giants game. And then join me on my channel at roughly 7:30 when I get home, and we'll do a little Giants post-game and a little pre-game Warriors-Kings tonight after the ball game. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to seeing all of you there. One last one. Chris Wall. I don't see the 49ers doing anything that might backfire. Trading Lance can backfire horribly. But not getting an unknown compensation in a trade is very nebulous. Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with any of that, but I do think they'll move him. I do. Just so many indications of it. Lee Gallen says, great show, Larry. Thanks, Lee. Peace to everybody, coast to coast and beyond. And thanks for supporting the Krug Show. We have over 16,000 subs right now. And it's really my phone just died. But otherwise, I'd tell you exactly to the minute how many subs we have. I'll have to tell you that later tonight. But I hope everybody has a phenomenal Friday and a safe and prosperous weekend. And until later today, join me at 2 on 95.7 The Game with Mark Willard. And we'll see you tonight on The Krug Show. And we're out.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon' get exactly what you asked for. Here for whatever you bring me, getting handled. I answer to no one, I don't need to hassle. Yeah.